Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome tonight to tonight's Town Council meeting. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Christopher Palmieri.
Here.
Jack Perry.
Here.
Paul Chaplinsky.
Here.
Michael Del Santo.
Present.
Valerie DiPaolo.
Here.
William Diedzik.
Here.
Tom Lombardi.
Here.
James Morelli.
Here.
Victoria Triano.
And I'm here. Thank you so much. Could we all stand for the prayer, followed by the flag salute?
Heavenly Father, open our eyes this evening to the truth and reality of every situation that we encounter. Give us solutions that are the best for our community now and in the future. Keep your hand upon Southington and continue to make her great. Amen.
Amen. Would you join me in the flag salute, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Item number 2, the minutes of our last meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of our prior meeting.
We have a motion and approval.
Madam Chair.
Is there any discussion, any additions, deletions, changes? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
One abstention. Thank you so much. Item number 3, let's get into our opioid, funds presentation, the opioid funds presentation. Forgive me, Bankin.
Yes. Let me just pull it up here. Isn't it projecting on the screen? Why isn't it?
Not working?
It's on the computer, but it's not projecting on the screen.
Was it, Megan, you had it set up earlier?
Jay Baker had it set up, yes. Right. And we had it up earlier.
Oh, good.
Maybe it sat for too long.
Is it possible it's in an extended display? You got to
Oh.
drag the presentation over?
You're right, Paul. Do you know how to change it on this one?
Paul knows everything.
Not sure.
The extended display?
There's your mouse. Maybe you could drag it over.
Okay. We were so set up here when we got here at 6 p.m.
I know you were here early.
Timed out.
Yes.
Oh, look. Oh. My apologies.
We have all those two screens.
Oh, maybe our friend.
So you should be able to drag it over.
Oh, it's-
And drag it.
We do some finger puppets.
Oh, something just happened. In my office, I have like two screens, my desktop.
There it is.
Thank you so much.
Good job.
Look, he
Thank
did it.
you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your help. Okay, officially ready. My name is Megan Albanese. It's a pleasure to be here. I am the Youth Prevention Coordinator for the STEPS Coalition in Town of Southington. Tonight, we are here to present to you all what we plan to do with the opioid settlement funds. Mr. Shota met with us a few months back and told us that we had received money from the towns banding together to sue the pharmaceutical companies for the opioid epidemic. The cases were settled, and we're starting to see some of the settlement money. So tonight, I am here with retired Deputy Chief Bill Palmieri, who is here tonight as our STEPS Board President, and we're also here with Detective Sergeant Armack, who's going to speak in a little bit too. So I'm just here for the introduction, but I'm also here to thank you because, especially Mr. Shota and every single town council member here, we are so progressive in prevention in Southington, and it is amazing. And the fact that people come to us and ask what we're doing with our funds and look at our plans, we're very fortunate. So thank you all for your never-ending support. It's much appreciated. Civilian William.
Good evening. So the opioid settlement funds, the current balance is a little over $93,000. The funds are distributed and received each year to the municipality. And areas that we initially want to focus on are infrastructure, investigative, and community victim support, training for our first responders, which is a partnership with the health director, and then the Hope Diversion Program, which is a program that we're partnering with Hartford Healthcare and treatment program. We want to increase that, and our community education and training on the dangers of opioid misuse and abuse and narcan use for our community. So some of our stats that we got from the police department, this is from 2020 to year to date. Our overdoses, as you see, in 2020 were 46. In 2021, they were 41. In 2022, they were 46. Year to date, we're at 20. Our overdose deaths in 2020 were 11, in 2021 were 8, in 2022 were 14, and we're currently at 8 year-to-date as of July 30th. When we look at those in the aggregate, we've deployed Narcan 205 times. Now that includes civilian Narcan, police Narcan, and the ambulance department and the fire. We're up around 95 times our officers have utilized that. If we look by gender and age, for overdoses, 45 females, 108 males. As you see, we broke it down in the age range. 30 to 34 and 35 to 39 are where the majority of our overdoses are occurring. You look at the 10 to 14, and I just want to touch on that. That one that was there, it was not an opioid or fentanyl-related overdose. It was a child that took some wrong pills, so we don't want to create the illusion that that was an opioid or something like that. As far as our overdose deaths by gender and age, 13 females, 28 males. Again, the 30, 34 is 11, 35 to 39 range was 7, and 60 and 64 had another 7. So that kind of gives you an understanding of where they've broken down over the last 3 years. So funding allocations. First part is we want to improve our Cellbrite premium cell phone forensics. That's going to be about $18,000 per year. Detective Sergeant Armack is here. He's going to go over that and explain the technology to you, and then we'll follow up with the rest of the program. Detective Sergeant Armack.
Good evening.
Good evening.
First, I want to say thank you for allowing me to speak to you tonight. If you have any questions at any time, feel free to interrupt me. First, I'd just like to briefly touch upon the mission of the Southington Police Department and our current level of police services that we have. Then I'm going to explain our department's current capabilities as it relates to cell phones and their use in opioid death investigations. Then I'd like to give you a recent example of what a successful criminal investigation looks like as it relates to an opioid death investigation. And then lastly, explain how I believe using this grant money for this purpose would increase our level of service currently offered to our Southington residents. We are a full-service police department. I'm sure that you've all heard that from our police chief in the past. To put that into context, I'm going to take you back about 18 years ago. I had just graduated from the police academy, ready to take on the world, start my job as a police officer. Chief calls me into his office. He says, I'm going to tell you about one of the most important calls that I've ever had as a police chief. My eyes got bright. I'm like, this must be great. He must have took down a robber or, something exciting. He told me it was when he was dispatched to a call for service for an elderly female that didn't know what to wear. And he went to her house, he picked out a dress for her, and she continued on her day. He explained to me in that moment that was the most important thing to her. She didn't have anybody to talk to, she didn't know what to do, and he was there to help her. I try to harness that or exude that every single time I come to work. I try to keep that in mind all the time, that commitment to public service. I'm currently tasked with overseeing the day-to-day operations of our detective division, and I think that commitment runs deep within our police department to our community. At any given time, if we have a major incident, I could tell you all with the utmost confidence, I can have 10 people at the police department, all experienced investigators, within 15 minutes. So if that's not commitment to your community, I'm not sure what is. So, as you all know, cell phones have become an integral part of everyday life. There's a long history. I'm not going to get into it, just to be a little bit more brief here as far as are we able to unlock them, can we unlock them, whether we need a search warrant, we don't need a search warrant. Those are all very kind of sometimes complex legal questions, and I would be willing to, if you gave me a scenario, answer those questions for you to my best ability. But they definitely are filled with information, cell phones are. We currently have the ability to forensically download an unlocked cell phone that we have the passcode for. When I say forensically download, it'll uphold in court. It's not me just looking at it. Oftentimes you might recover deleted items. It has a hash value to that forensic download so that it can be replicated. Basically, it holds up in court. We pay $4,800 a year for this service through Cellbrite. It's a minimal service because it doesn't unlock phones or offer you anything else. That comes out of Jay Baker's IT budget. I guess it's slated to go up to about $6,000 next year. Currently, we have two ways that we could unlock phones. I can send a cell phone to the state laboratory, and they will unlock it or attempt to unlock it using this software or some software very similar. That process right now takes anywhere from 6 to 8 months. The problem with that is that now that information is stale. So I can't just take that information, go use it to do a search warrant on a bad guy's house that has drugs in his house, or go use it to try to further my investigation because it's old. Not that I can't use it at all, it's called stale information. The second way we could unlock a phone currently is ask a favor from another agency. So Plainville PD does have a software very similar to this. Monroe PD does have this same software. We've used Stratford PD. So our investigators are kind of driving all around the state, transporting phones, trying to get them unlocked in a timely manner currently. I try not to ask these favors too much because it's about $500 an unlock. So I do have to triage our cases. If we have a sexual assault, a serious assault, a murder, an armed robbery, those cases are taking precedent, and that's where I'm currently using my favors or our favors at other agencies. Unfortunately, overdose investigations are kind of lower on that triage currently, and I'd like to change that. An example I'd like to give you of a successful case, I had to go back a little bit because I didn't want to present you with a case that was currently under appeal or currently in the court system. So I'm going to take you back to 2017. This is not the most recent case, but it is a case that we investigated. 31-year-old female. She was a Southington resident, found deceased in her Southington home. I'm not going to say her name out of respect for her family, but she was a daughter and she was someone's sister. The medical examiner determined her death to be an accidental overdose from fentanyl, acetylfentanyl, methadone, olazarpam, and alcohol. Investigators talked with her family in length about what they would like done with this investigation. Again, I go back to community service. I would never force an investigation upon a family member who just lost their loved one. They're normally cooperative with this process in attempting to find a passcode for a phone the best that they can to try to further our investigation. If they do not want an investigation, we respect those wishes as well. As part of this investigation, her cell phone was examined. We shipped that off to Monroe PD. They were able to do a timely unlock of the phone. This led to the discovery of the supplier of the drugs that killed her. He was supplying her drugs with a period of 6 weeks. We were able to prove that with the cell phone. We found call logs, text messages, and actual recorded phone calls between her and the person that supplied the drugs that killed her. So you can see how important the cell phone was in that case. So we worked with DA agents for several various reasons as why we didn't take it to the state side. We took it to the federal side, and he was charged with sale of drugs to our Southington victim. He received a 2.5-year federal prison sentence with 6 years of supervised release. He was a 26-year-old Cheshire resident. There are other cases we have made by unlocking the phone with the assistance of a significant other or a family member and doing a download that way. There's different investigative techniques we use. I'm not going to get into too much, but sometimes we'll make controlled purchases using informants after we get that information. These are the people that are selling this poison to our community. We'd like to stop those people. So we have had a couple other cases, but the current practice basically is we attempt to unlock the phone with assistance of the family member. If we can't do that, we're asking the family member if they'd be willing to wait. Sometimes they just want to get it done and over with. They want to try to get pictures off the phone, so they may be more inclined to try to unlock it. But that's where we are now. If we can't unlock it, our investigation kind of stops there without any other witness or anything else, any other person that we could interview or talk to. Returning to our level of service, giving the police department the capability to conduct our own cell phone unlocks in a timely manner, it's going to give closure to our citizens. It's going to give closure to them that they lost a loved one, and I've made a couple of those phone calls myself, letting them know that, we did make an arrest on this case, and this person hopefully can't supply drugs and kill another person. So in that sense, I think that this would increase the level of service that we offer to our community. We could start doing more investigations, or more thorough investigations on these opioid-related death investigations.
Thank you. Does any member of the council have any questions for Detective Sergeant? Yes, Tom?
Thank you. Thank you, Detective Armack. I think that's a very important point that you brought up, because I think for the average resident who just reads this presentation, this may look like a new software or a new procedure, and I think there would be certainly questions about, invasion of privacy and things of that nature. So I think your presentation is very helpful to say that these are processes and techniques that are already being done. We're just streamlining it to bring it in-house. And I just really question if there's any way that multiple towns can join together to use one license, because it just seems crazy that they're going to have 169 towns all paying this $18,000 per year license fee. But I guess
There is a higher license fee, too,
Right.
if you want unlimited unlocks. Don't quote me, I think it's close to $100,000 a year.
Right.
We could explore possibly going to other towns and trying to pool resources, but then you're going to end up running into a similar problem with the state, who
Right.
has unlimited, and now you have a backlog
Right.
of phones. Sometimes to actually physically unlock the phone could take a day or 2 or 3 days, depending on a whole lot of things.
Right, and I think it goes back to what Megan said. I think this shows, Southington is at the forefront, and I think other towns might kind of piggyback off of this. But it is very important that you address this technique in software, so thank you.
Anyone else?
Madam Chair?
Yes, please.
Just an observation, and thank you for your report as well, but maybe for Meg, I had noticed the figures that, the 30 to 34 and the 35 to 39. So do you have any theories on that? Any data that's?
The data, unfortunately, is a little bit out of our hands until they either overdose or die.
Right.
Because of specific R funding usually goes up to 18, sometimes 21. It's that gap from 21 to 40 that's really missing services, help, and it's just people struggling.
So are there any programs that you can point people to? There's really not much, right?
We are very excited to revive the HOPE program, and Bill's going to talk a little bit about that too. But if we can push that out, that there is help for people, that there's hope for people, that they can come to the police station with no repercussions, that's going to be our strongest arm to help people. And that's what people need, is an arm to reach out and help pull them out of addiction. This is,
Right. Is that anything that the HOPE diversion and treat, that's through Hartford Healthcare?
It's a partnership between Southington Police Department and Hartford Healthcare, where anybody who is in active addiction, whether they have substances on them or not, can come into the police department and receive a warm welcome, and then also in turn get a warm handoff to Hartford Healthcare at Bradley ED.
So that could possibly help
Yeah.
that age group?
And then they have, a procedure in place of calling in someone for them to talk to, and
Yep.
everything that goes
Yeah,
along with it. It's sad.
yeah.
Very sad.
Thank you so much.
Very good. I think, Tom, you had said.
Yeah,
excuse me.
briefly, looking at the statistics of the overdoses, can you just touch upon we're looking at numbers here, but how many of these numbers equate to actual people, if that makes sense? So for example, the overdoses in 2022, we see a number of 46, right? So are these repeat overdoses? Do you understand that? Or is it actual?
A death or an overdose every time.
Right,
So
but,
if it's a different call every time, right? So say you were overdosing and you overdosed twice, you would count as 2 numbers, but if it's 2 separate
Right.
calls, they're going
Right.
to count as 2 separate.
So is it a case where we're seeing a lot of the same repeat overdose, the actual people? Or is it different people each time?
What I can do is I can go through the data and get you a finite answer. From 20 to 23, I don't believe you have the repeat offenders. If we were to go back, I believe it was the year 2016.
Yep.
We had one individual that overdosed 14 times.
Right, that's what.
You know, so that, I know
was
what
my
you're getting
question.
at. What I can do is, I can go through the numbers, and I don't think you're gonna see a significant repeat offender, but I just would rather give you the accurate number. This is more
Yeah.
of the aggregate, but I can get something for you and send it through the town manager's office, so you have that information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Along that line, Bill, I wanted to ask, it looks as though the numbers are maybe declining on deaths. However, 205 times for the Narcan, would it be safe to say that you probably saved at least 50 people with a recovery from overdose?
Well, Narcan definitely helps. I mean, yes, we've had a lot of saves with this, because these are, don't forget, the 205 times are associated with that number.
Right.
So Narcan is a good tool. It's out in the community now.
And to Tom's point, that could be the same person 4 or 5 times. But I worked on an ambulance a long time ago, and when Narcan first came out, and I saw people that were literally gonna die. They got hit with Narcan, and they popped up wanting to fight. So when you look at that number, to me, that's impressive, by the way, the 205. I think we should try to get that more readily available and more prevalent, because then we would have more saves. But I think that what happens is the numbers, so you look at, so we're at 8 year-to-date, so that puts us at probably 16 or 18 for the year, and you say, oh, well, you know, it's up. But I think those numbers would be way different if we weren't administering the Narcan.
Well, they could be, because conceivably, your overdoses could translate over to overdose deaths.
Yes.
You know, I think the important thing, and again, you know, being retired and I'm into being the STEPS president and everything, what I think has always been unique about our communities, we're not afraid to talk about these numbers. You know, one overdose death is one too many, but to be able to have them and talk to the community about it, it really is, you know, kind of a validation of that our community is open-minded and discuss these things. You know, and that's why we look at the numbers, because we want to stay on top of it, right? We may end up at, you know, 14 to 16 for the year, and then we can go back and figure out how we can try and, you know, make it better.
In terms of the Narcan, since we have become trainers, the coalition, I'm a trainer of Narcan for the past, I would say at least 5 years, we have offered community Narcan trainings where we have put it out to the entire community. Anybody can come, anybody can get trained, anybody can leave with a kit of Narcan, and we will continue to do that and make it readily available to anyone who wants it.
Awesome.
And as we talked about, just for the funding allocations, the whole program, we're going to, you know, we're going to kind of revitalize that a little bit more. That's up there. We're also going to do mental health first aid for all the first responders. That'll give our first responders extra training and initial care for people that are dealing with substance misuse and abuse or mental health crisis and things of that nature. And then the community Narcan training, like Megan touched on, we're going to do that. We're also looking at maybe having maybe a couple town hall meetings with some regularity to discuss like problems with that group, because you talk about the sweet spot where there's that 30 to 40 group, but I think what people have to understand is they can reach out to Megan, and if they want to talk, we'll make time. Megan and myself will make time after hours, you know, to help people, and I think what we have to do is get the citizens to understand that if you are struggling, you know, if you come and talk to us, even if there's no services, we're going to find some way of helping you. We can at least have that conversation and point you to the right direction. The fact that there's no quote-unquote services right now, yes, that's something we have to work through, and hopefully down the road we can get it, but there's help here. We have Megan and we have the coalition. We have over 33 volunteers from different sectors in the community that would gladly roll up their sleeves and help. So the biggest message we want to get out is we can have meetings where people want to come to talk or they want to reach out to us. You know, they can call us and we'll be there for them.
Great, thank you. Jack?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So your current balance is 93,000. You mentioned that this is going to be over several years. Do we have a total what that will be, or not yet?
Mr. Schroeder can speak to that.
No, we're going to receive an allocation over the next bunch of years. There's still actually a pending case, so we'll be receiving there. What I asked this particular group to do is work with the 93,000 now, and they're working at about $18,000 to $20,000 a year to get us going into that point. If we can spend more money later on, we can, but I told them to be very conservative because the 93 is what we have now. I want to see what's coming in to make sure that it's a program that we can keep going on without hitting the taxpayers for it.
Perfect. And then I have one quick question about the 30 to 39 year olds that are struggling. is that like a sliding scale that it's just a certain age group that, you know, is just struggling? Does that make any sense? Like, is it moving? Will that bracket then go to the 40 to 44 range? Is it because, again, you look at some of this data, I'm guessing a lot of this is also with what STEP's been doing, that we don't see younger individuals, because again, STEPS, I think, was what, 2008, right? 2007? Yeah, I graduated in 2008, so I remember this being, you know, just implemented. And again, you know, this age group right here that is struggling is obviously my generation that I graduated with. So I'm just really concerned that, you know, is it going to just continue, and what can we do as a community more to obviously curb this? Because again, you just don't want to see that age group just keep moving.
Sure.
Because again, if they're struggling and the overdoses, eventually it's fatal.
So if I could speak to that briefly, and this is kind of opinion through police experience, it's great that in our community, we don't have, these numbers aren't juveniles. These aren't high school kids that are picking up bags of fentanyl and experimenting. That's huge, because I think there are some communities in our state that's actually happening. I'm going to give credit to STEPS there a little bit, coupled with the fact of becoming dependent upon fentanyl is a process. So it's not like somebody just wakes up one day. A lot of these folks are just regular, everyday people. They're firefighters, they're folks like you and I that have a surgery. They go through that surgery, they get prescribed too much painkillers, they don't know what to do, they experience withdrawals, they may talk to a friend, that friend may give them a couple here and there, they may start abusing prescription narcotics. They could do that for years, 2 years, 3 years. If they have good income, it's very expensive, eventually they'll run out of money. That's why I think it takes a really long, not a really long time, but it takes years to kind of get to the point where you're abusing fentanyl now, because I would argue 90% of our overdoses plus involve fentanyl. That's my kind of educated take on it, why it's kind of the younger 30s, because they experience life throughout their 20s, and it's usually dependency upon prescription pills, and it's taking a pill. You know where it came from a pharmacy, it won't harm you. It's when you're taking it from a bag off the street, you don't know what it is, and that's kind of my little police experience.
Yeah, I just was curious, because again, this age group is obviously right before or right when STEP started, so I just didn't know if there was obviously some sort of factor there, or again, if that's just, yeah.
We would love to say that we are completely the reason why, but I think it just goes to a bigger mental health and nationwide epidemic.
And you have to continue to evaluate the data. That's the other thing. Like at the police department, we have data that goes back all the way to 2012. So we can start looking at that and see if that scale did slide. But the thing is not to stop what STEPS is doing or what we're doing as a community. Like, we'll look at these numbers, and then 23, 24 into the future, we got to keep starting to look at them and see if there is those trends or how they're setting up. And, you know, because again, data's not going to solve everything, but data will at least give us a map to say, hey, here's where we really are struggling. And, you know, we are thankful, you know, like Detective Sergeant Armack said, that we don't have a big number of juveniles. But I still think education is probably one of the most powerful tools we have. You know, and again, I say all the time, it took me a long time to learn that, because whether it was, I used to think about kicking down the door, arresting the bad guy, yeah, we need to have that, you need to have a balance, though. But we also have to make sure people are educated and understand the dangers of everything, so.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Chris, go ahead.
A couple comments and then a question as well. First of all, I'm really happy to hear some of the funding, the Cellbrite premium cell phone software is being used specifically for prevention, because to your point, it actually gives some closure to some of the families to find out, and you can go after not necessarily the person that's using it, but where do they get it, and who's the provider. So I'm really happy to hear the funding is used for that, coupled with prevention. So those two are huge. Second comment, it really is incredible, just our community, the partnership that our police department has with STEPS. Each time you come, I think I'm a little bit more impressed. You know, it's hard to get better each time, but you seem to do that, and the collaboration between the police department and STEPS is phenomenal, and our community benefits. The question I have is for Narcan. There's new legislation, you know, especially related to schools, where there's access to that, you know, in those emergency type situations where you need it. And I've actually been trained by you, Megan, so I know the training you're referring to, and I know you've offered that to residents. So that's more big picture, thinking ahead for people that maybe see the need for it in the future. But what is there, if anything, can we do as a community to make it more accessible for that emergency moment where, you know, it's not something pre-planned?
So, again, where Southington is so fortunate is we've had Narcan in all our buildings for years. It's accessible in every school, it's accessible in the library, in town hall, here in the municipal center. We can get it to anyone in the community, we just need to know. So anybody who wants it can reach out to me anytime. We try to put it out on social media. We can make a graphic for even the town to push out, that anybody can get trained and have access to it anytime at all. We have a supply of it, so you can lead the horse to water, but, and we try, so we'll have a few more, or we try to do like a couple every year, so I would see us doing at least 4 this year, 2 in the first half, 2 in the second half.
Very good.
Does that answer your question?
Yes. Anybody else? We're going to close this. Yep.
I was just going to echo Chris's comments about the prevention part of this. I think it's good that there's a collaboration there, so thank you, Chief and Megan, for everything you're doing with STEPS. And Detective Sergeant, thanks for coming out. The presentation was really good, and please give our regards to the rest of the department. You're all doing a very, very wonderful job protecting the community. Thanks.
Thank you.
We certainly appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Very
Thank you.
good. Very good. I do want to just let folks know, Chief Daly called me today, and he said, please remind everybody that the Southington Police Department survey is still out there. However, the window is getting smaller, and it will be pulled in the next week or so. So please get out, and you can access the survey on the police department website. And we're hoping to get many more folks answering it. I think most of us have done it here on the dais, and so please do that. It will help the police department, our town, and the focus for the future. So I wanted to make sure I did that. Okay. I see Donna Ayer is here, and we're just to hold off. Donna, were you going to speak a little bit about panhandling? Yeah, well, yeah. Excuse me? Deputy Chief is here. Deputy Chief, could you just come on up a little bit? And we've been working on
I
this.
thought you were retired.
We're hearing more from you now than before. We've been working and talking about this for months and months and months. And I do want to say that I had to contact the PD over the weekend about a situation similar to the panhandling. And the police department was extremely attentive to it and took care of things. But, Bill, could you just help us, give us an overview and where we stand right now?
Yeah, so as you know, a few months ago, Donna, Missy, myself, and Janet, working with Councilwoman Triano, we were exploring some issues on panhandling. So what we ended up doing, we ended up getting together as a group. We talked about it. We decided that an ordinance really wasn't the way to go, nor was signage. So we felt that a big educational push would be the best way to solve or help educate people as far as panhandling goes. So what you have in your packet is kind of a brochure that we're going to create, and we're going to distribute it to all the merchants. We're also going to come up with some signs that people can hang in their windows. So what we're trying to get across to the people is when you see that person that's panhandling, there's other ways within the community, whether it's Southington Community Services, Bread for Life, you could reach out to them, give them a donation, or help them to get this person help. It's not so much.
These services are Bread for Life.
Yes.
You get the donation.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, and I've done it myself, you give somebody $5 and people could say, okay, this person's not really panhandling, it's a scam, and there are people that scam. There are people that are down on their luck, and we're fortunate in this community where if we do see panhandlers, they call us, we go out, we talk to them, we get Bread for Life involved, we get the community services involved, so there's other ways. Some people may say, hey, look, instead of me giving money, I'll go down and donate some food to the community service or Bread for Life. So we just felt that the brochure was a better way to go with some other educational material.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you, Deputy Chief. Appreciate it very much. And I will add that it is a much better way of going forward. You know, because yes, there could be scammers out there, but there also could be people in need. And so we want to make sure that we take care of the people in need. And the best way, as you said it, is to funnel it through our charities program, whether it's Southington Community Services, of course, Bread for Life every day, are Feeding the Poor. And so thank you very much. And we'll see a brochure very shortly that will be used. So thank you, everybody. And thank you, Detective Armont, Detective Sergeant Armont. We appreciate you being here also. Okay, let's move on. Item number 4 is councilperson's communication of special committees. The town bidding exploratory review. Michael?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We met on July 31st, and Mr. Jay Baker went over the discussions with the final vendors under review, and the committee selected Planet Bid out of Hartford. Planet Bid from Hartford Municipality, and actually Maryland as well, to be the company that we were going with. I'm not sure if Councilman Perry had anything to add, but everyone did a great job. I wasn't able to attend a lot of the Zoom meetings with the companies, actually interviewing them because they were during work time. But I know Councilman Perry was there. I'm not sure if you wanted to add something.
Yeah,
that Planet Bid was.
Yeah, Jack, please.
Yeah, I want to thank the entire town staff as well as Councilman Del Santo for collaborating and working together. A lot of the presentations were very informative and very uplifting as well, because again, the presentations, you know, had a lot of information about how we could save money by putting more bids out, and there was a lot of data there to absorb. So it was very interesting to see everybody's pitch, but it was the common theme that utilizing some sort of technology like that, there's big savings, and it also helps the town staff like we imagined. So again, we did get pricing, and Planet Bids, you know, we voted unanimously to support moving forward with them. So I don't see it as an action item on the.
What we talked about, as you remember, is that at the subcommittee, they were going to get a contract over to Alex. Alex is going to review the contract and have it for us by the September meeting.
Okay.
I want to thank the the exploratory committee, because I think it was very important, and it looks like there's a plan going forward, and it looks pretty good. So we'll look forward to the contract, and if we have any more input on it, that'll be great. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Sure. Apple Harvest.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Councilman Palmieri and myself met with the Apple Harvest Committee on Wednesday, August 9th, last week. And before I give the report on the actual meeting, I wanted to apologize to the council and the public, because I think it was at our June meeting that I said that the fireworks were approved at the Apple Harvest level, and I prematurely stated that. We have been using Berkshire Fireworks for many years. They've been a great vendor of ours. However, they did give notice to the Apple Harvest Committee that they are retiring. So Dave LaPrey put out a bid. We got 3 bid results. And at our meeting last week, we unanimously approved Pyrotechnico Fireworks Company, and they are the same firm that does the Italian Fest here in town. And there were some other discussion items related to booths and things of that nature. So Councilman Palmieri, if you wouldn't mind filling us in.
Again, pleased with the support we get in our community, not only from our nonprofits, but our sponsors, which help fund the festival, and ultimately make it, take it off the municipal budget with a lot of the money we bring in. And one of the key areas that we bring in funds is through sponsorship. So this year, so far, we have $55,100 in sponsorship collected for the festival, which is fantastic for us.
Wonderful.
Again, that helps with many of the costs. Our vendor booths are all filled. In fact, there's a wait list, so that's another good and bad problem. You know, we love that it's as popular in the community as it is, but there is a wait list just in case, so we are going to try to prioritize the people that wanted to request a spot, and maybe there isn't a spot available for them now. And if you're interested in the future, moving forward, just get those applications in early for future festivals. And then the last thing I think that we really talked about is we're involving our students again from high school. We have juniors and seniors that'll serve as ambassadors. We have about a dozen high school students that are going to be helping us out. They'll be manning the information booth, and they'll be part of the festival as well. And we felt that was important to involve the school students in our community as well. I think that's pretty much it.
Yep.
Any questions for the Apple Harvest Festival Committee? Hearing none, let's just keep moving on. Item C, the Library Building Committee. Jim?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As most people have seen, the ground has been broken. We're currently installing footings for the new building. Steel has been ordered and it's on schedule. There have been a few things that were not buttoned up as far as details in the contract, but it looks like everything is secured and in a monetarily good fashion, so we're on our budget, basically. There's not a groundbreaking ceremony. There will be a topping ceremony, which will probably occur in September. And fundraising is going gangbusters. It's all good.
Very good. Any questions? Okay, let's keep going. Sewer Committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We had such a light agenda that Val and I gave town staff a beach day, and Dave's only two, so
Well, that's
we
nice.
didn't hold a meeting.
Yeah, that's good, very good. I hope you had fun at the beach day. Okay, I guess there's no questions then. That would just be, let's just move on. Item E, the Strike Committee concerning the STEEP grant, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Some committees do actually work together. We had our meeting on July 27th. There was speak of possibly applying for the STEEP grant, but unfortunately, the agenda item that we were going to utilize the STEEP grant for just was not able to be panned out. So we're hoping that they offer the STEEP grant again in the future, and hopefully we can swing for the fences on that one. We did have a presentation from a company called Element 119. They're looking for some land here in town. They're asking for a tax abatement. They're currently out of Cheshire, and they have 47 employees, and they would like to increase that to 100 employees. And they were looking to build a 120,000 square foot building on 25 acres up off of West Queen Street. So we thought this was a home run. The tax abatement program has been successful in the past, so it was unanimous that the strike committee sent back a favorable recommendation for this project. So that was great. And then we also had a discussion about returning payment in lieu of opportunities. There was an opportunity up on West Street that where Lou Perillo is going to be applying for a $4.8 million Safe Streets grant. And the town would be responsible for 20% of the cost to qualify for the grant, and possibly putting in some sidewalks up on West Street and allowing a property up there, instead of building sidewalks, paying the town's end of that grant. So everyone thought it was a good idea and should be addressed by planning and zoning, so planning and zoning is going to pick that up at the next meeting. Other than that, we did discuss, maybe I could bring this to Councilman Perry once again, about his trolley idea. We discussed that at length, so Jack, maybe you can fill us in on the idea of the trolley to connect downtown Southington and downtown Plantsville.
Yeah, so I've met with several council members as well as the Economic Strike Committee. We spoke briefly about it. I met with Mark Shota as well. And, obviously Southington is, the best town, right? I love our town, and trying to do something to help the downtown areas where downtown Plantsville and downtown Southington are. You have the mom and pop, the brick and mortar stores of our community, and when you're watching them close, it's like, what can we do as leaders? Try to put our heads together, come up with ideas that are as cost neutral as possible. So I've been to another town that actually had a bus trolley, and it was an attraction. I think it's an economic development tool that could be used properly to help businesses, work with the Chamber of Commerce, and try to experiment ways to bring a trolley back to town, because we have historic significance of having one, but we don't have to worry about doing the tracks and the roads like you traditionally would have with a trolley, because technology now, we could do EV trolleys. And there's grants out there that we can maybe even get, that subsidized through the federal government. Because I've been now having a lot of conversations with residents and other individuals, and there seems to be a lot of federal grants trying to help move people around. So us not having any public transportation or whatnot, I just figured that this may be a good tool that we could try to bring some of the patrons from the hotels on West Street. I was talking to a resident that does Ubering, and he says during the week, a lot of business clientele, and on the weekends, a lot of wedding parties that are staying at those hotels. So again, it may be a good thing to experiment, in the summer, months with the evenings as well as weekends, and try to do something different. So right now, I have a survey out there. It's, I think, 21 questions roughly, just trying to get some input from the community, so that then we could start doing cost analysis and try figuring out ways to move forward. But again, it's an idea at this point in time, so any input from the community would be greatly appreciated. I just feel it's a good tool for our downtown areas, and again, it would also be an attraction for other people to come to our town and support our businesses in the downtown areas.
Thank you. Thank you. Keep us posted, please. Very good. Anybody, anything else?
That wraps it up for our meeting. I'm not sure if there are any questions.
Mike, can I ask, so I had a conversation with Lou Perillo last week regarding the West Street and Spring Street realignment.
Right.
He had mentioned West Center Street Extension and West Street, trying to get that aligned. Are there plans
Yeah.
already drawn up for that?
There were
or-
3 different pinch points, West Center Street, straightening that out, West Pines Drive and Spring Street.
Yeah, and Curtis.
And Curtis was
Right,
the
we
other
talked
one,
about
right.
that.
Yeah, the street grant was very specific. They had to be shovel-ready projects. And in order to straighten out West Center Street with West Center Street Extension, we'd have to also speak to neighbors and speak with people about retaining land to make that
So none of
happen.
that's been done?
No.
Maybe
with
just
the
some
str-
plans drawn up, but not,
Right. The problem
not
with the
speaking
steep
with the
grant
neighbor?
is that we never know when it's coming.
Right.
Once it comes, and we have 6 weeks.
Right.
So now we have to scurry to get, shovel-ready projects up and running for
Yep.
it. It's frustrating.
Okay. Yeah,
But
just interest, just.
That's definitely on the horizon to straighten out that as well, because.
The West Street Corridor study talked about those 3 pinch points.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the one that you're talking about, we didn't need the study to tell us that one. That pinch point's been on our radar for a long time.
Right.
But unlike this one here, that would require a massive amount of property shifting from at least 1, if not 2 property owners.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Great. Yes, go ahead.
Just a testament to the process, and thanks to the Parks Board for, looking at it, tabling it, giving some time and consideration, and really reviewing, all of the components of this to ensure that all the stakeholders had an opportunity to look at it. I think the process is working, although, we were rushed to try to make this happen. I think it would be worth, continuing to work on some of these things in advance, because we know every year there's going to be grant opportunities. So I think we shouldn't rest. We should continue to work to get the stakeholders involved and see if we can come up with a solution that's ready for the future, because this will come up again in 6 months or 9 months or 12 months. But thanks to all involved who did that, and also to
It was a 2-year
Lou Perillo.
lapse this time around.
Yeah, and thanks to Lou Perillo for, continuing to look at this and look for opportunities.
Great. Okay, Public Works.
Moving on, Madam Chair, we had our Public Works meeting on Wednesday, August 2nd. Just a couple of things to bring up. Ms. Turnquist reported something a little troubling. She said that residents recently at the transfer station have been somewhat hostile towards staff. So just want to remind folks that, there are staff members up there, they're just doing their jobs. They're under a lot of pressure because the dumping companies have really been on them to ensure that the proper materials are going into the proper bins. So if everyone could just remember that, if they're bringing stuff to the transfer station and they bring a board that's too long, they're not allowed to accept it. So they're getting a really hard time. Annette thought it'd be a good idea to just remind the residents to just, be nice. Be nice when they're up there, and if they get turned away for whatever reason, they can address that with either us, they can address it with town staff, but don't give or actually town stakeholders, but don't give the staff up there a hard time. They're already, it's tough enough as it is. It's a Saturday, they're working, they're trying to do their job. So it's, Annette said that's been pretty bad last couple of months, so she wanted that addressed.
Before you move on. to
Yeah,
the next
sure.
one. So I'm wondering if now we could maybe be proactive, so when everyone gets their sticker, just a one-page maybe summary that goes along with that to everyone, because I know it's available on the website, but do people actually take the time and go on there? And it's just a proactive way to maybe communicate some of those requirements and restrictions that are put on us by the vendors.
Right.
Might be a good way.
It's a great idea. Yep.
Plan it
Yeah, I
now.
think it's a
Yeah,
great
March
idea.
is when the stickers come out, so now is the time to actually start drafting some information on it, and we can talk about that at the next Public Works meeting.
Yes, so just to build, to elaborate a little bit more, because obviously I'm hauling it, and so I understand what the disposal sites want. So the town of Southington's under contract with Covanta, so they have a lot of rules, and by there being rules, they're guidelines because it's a trash energy plant. So the tip fee there is about somewhere around $72 a ton, where if we don't utilize that facility and you go to a facility that, has to use landfills, right, it's more expensive, and you're talking a double the fees. You're $140 plus. So I think it's important, to educate the residents that, again, this will come to a cost to them if they're not complying with this, because then it's got to go to a different facility that could further process all those materials. But Covanta is obviously our best bet, most bang for our buck, and they've been really restricting or watching things more than ever because, again, the Hartford incinerator closing, there is now less capacity to get rid of our waste. So they could capitalize off of bringing in spot waste at $100 a ton. So again, they're under contract, thank God, for the town of Southington, for us being part of the 13 communities, right, Mark? Is it 13?
14.
14. So again, there's a huge benefit there. So before we get kicked out, I think that's more it, that the disposal fees could double, which is obviously would be bad for our budget.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Mr. Turnquist reported that the paving for the year for the roads are done. They still have to kind of go back and fix some driveway aprons and repair manhole cover situations, but the paving for the year is done. She said everything went somewhat seamlessly and flawlessly. The recreation pool and pool house project is underway, as we all know, and it's on schedule. They're hoping that next year they'll be able to open. It's a big undertaking. I don't know if folks have driven through Rec Park. I don't have baseball anymore, so I don't have to drive through anymore. But I did drive through a couple of weeks ago, and I see all the projects underway, and
Huge, yeah.
there's a lot of work being done up there. And she did report that Panhandling Park is scheduled to be paved in late summer, early fall, just like Rec Park was last year. So there'll be notices put out so folks can kind of plan ahead before that happens. Marion Avenue Bridge is underway as well. So the Marion Avenue is closed between Bird Street and Meriden-Waterbury Turnpike through August 28th. They are hoping that the project gets done a little sooner, but it's definitely going to be done before school starts. That was the main thing that the chief wanted to be concerned about. And then lastly, we had another discussion about the improvements on Route 10 and 322. And I thought it'd be a good idea that we can talk about this at the council level. There was a brief discussion at the Public Works meeting and how we got a letter back from DOT basically saying that we know you folks are opposed to it, but this is the way it's going to be. So I thought it'd be a good idea if we can either have Alex draft a letter or maybe even Annette. I don't know how everyone else feels about it. I don't think there's a lot of support for it on this council. So I think if we draft a letter to let them know that we are not supportive of it. But go ahead, Chris, yeah.
I reached out to Representative Poulos because it's actually in his district, to check in on the status. He actually, on behalf of the town, did speak to the legislative aide at the Department of Transportation, hence the reason we got the letter in the
Yep,
first place.
right.
Unfortunately, otherwise we
Right.
probably wouldn't have even gotten that. One of the things we need to do is absolutely respond to that, even though it seems redundant. We've already told them
Sure.
multiple times we don't want
Give them
it
the letter.
removed, and they're asking us again, do you want the bridge removed? So we need to let them know, yes, we still stand united, that's what I
Right.
think. We stand united in removing the bridge. The other thing too is, possibly a way to help out if maybe Senator Sampson could weigh in as well. It just shows that bipartisan support. Maybe get him, because obviously the
Sure.
whole town is his district
Yep.
as well. Just to show that bipartisan support to the Department of
We can do that.
Transportation.
Sure.
Between that, our response from the council, then at least we've got a plan moving forward to show we're united.
I think that's very important. And so let me just put something forward. If everyone is in agreement, I think it's a very good idea to have our corporate counsel draft a letter to the Department of Transportation indicating that we, as a group, do not support the bridge,
Yeah,
The removal of the bridge,
The elimination
right.
of the bridge.
And adding
Uh,
a light.
excuse me, Jack?
Adding a light.
And adding a light.
And adding a light. We're not in favor of that. Mark, would you just instruct Alex to do that? And is it unanimous? Does everybody feel the same way on this? Val, are you okay with that?
Yes.
Jim, are you all right? You okay?
I'm adamant that I think it's a bad move.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't think it's good for the flow.
Bill?
Yes.
Everybody? Yep.
Madam
Yes,
Chair?
sir.
Yes, I'm okay with the letter.
If we could also, maybe in the letter, mention how this project has been delayed by the state, and obviously they recognize that there's safety concerns there with the turning radius and such. So again, we want to see something happen. We don't want us, opposing this to delay it. They asked for our feedback, we're giving it, but we've also been very patient. I think Mr. Del Santo stated that he used to drop his kids off, and that was discussion since daycare days.
16 years.
Yeah,
Since my
so
child was an infant.
I think we've waited long enough, and this project should be done the proper way. And obviously, it's a safety concern, and you have that new development going in Cheshire, I forget what it's called. But adding sidewalks into that area as well is going to be very important, since they're going to have sidewalks there to tie it all in. So I think it's very important that we state that, we don't want to see this removed, but we also don't want to see this delayed, and we've waited enough to get this done.
In discussions with Mr. Chaplinsky, with Paul, he reminded me that during their presentation, they mentioned that it's going to be less efficient than what we have. That was part of the less safe, right? Isn't that right, Paul? Isn't that what you had
Well,
said?
they indicated that one turning movement had a lower level of service.
Say that again.
And currently,
There's one point
Turning unit.
between the entire study, one point there where the level of service at one of the turning moments has a lower level of service than it is today in the new design.
And I think that that should also be included in that letter, so. All right, so Mark, thank you so much. Would you bring it to Alex? And we will get that out as soon as we possibly can. And I will call Senator Sampson and see if the senator would also do something similar. Very good.
Madam Chair?
Yes?
While Mr. Del Santo still has the floor, can I just go back
Sure.
quick on the strike?
Of course.
Yes.
For that realignment on West Center Street Extension, was there ever a cost that was
Cost?
ever talked about?
I don't recall cost.
So
yeah.
just plans?
No, it's just, actually, it's part of the study. I'm sure if you go back far enough, councils probably 20 years ago talked about it, but recently I've not seen any study where it was actually costed out.
Okay.
But I do know that years ago, even when Mr. Weissel was here, the property owners were discussed, and it didn't work at that time.
Okay.
The first piece of business is we would have to acquire
We need to
one of the
acquire
houses,
one
or two of the
one or
houses.
the other. Probably the house.
Well, they may, at
probably
that
the house on the
time,
east side.
they might have been contacted about selling, right? Possibly selling to the town.
That's what it would have to be.
Yeah.
Just the one other thing, too. At the meeting, we also talked about a backup proposal. So should the West Street, which obviously that did fall through, it's not the most ideal, but it's still an opportunity for us to get some state grant funds. So I don't know, I know Lou's not here, but maybe we can get an update from Lou on, there was a second project that we discussed. It's related to the high school complex. So I'd rather apply and get some funds for the town than just let the grant go and get nothing. So I don't know if we can get a report from Lou ASAP, because the time is ticking, and
When I say the deadline's Friday.
I think the deadline's tomorrow.
Oh, it is tomorrow, 15th?
Deadline's tomorrow.
No, it's the 18th.
I thought it was tomorrow.
I thought Lou told me August 18th.
This week.
Friday, I think Mike's right, Friday.
But regardless, I'd like to find out, well, there was a backup, at the meeting, we did talk about a backup plan, so.
Mr. Morrison presented.
Right, so, but where are we with the backup plan? So we received the memo from Lou today saying we're not moving forward with this project.
With that plan,
So
yep.
where is the
Plan B.
second plan? Just because again, it's an opportunity for us to get a state grant.
How did you leave it with the committee?
Again, we set up the West Street as primary one,
Right.
the primary objective, and he was gonna draft a backup plan just in case that fell through. Now, it did fall through, so that's why I'm wondering where are we
Well,
at
maybe
with-
he has something, tomorrow, I think, just.
Well, why don't you do this, just, if the plan is, you know what the plan was, I believe it was something to do with the fields?
Yep.
Yes.
All right, just, I don't, obviously you're not gonna have a special meeting, so if you want to give me authorization to work with the Economic Development to file for that grant application, I can do that.
Could we keep it?
I would suggest you add it, or
Well,
put it
we
in.
already
add an
have
action.
action on steep.
Yep,
grant.
so leave it where steep grant is, and put action on steep grant, and give me the authority to work with the Economic Development Coordinator
That's item B.
for any project, but specifically the one that you guys talked about, which is the high school.
So it's already on for item B.
Okay.
Yep, very good,
Okay.
very good.
Thank you.
But remember,
We'll clarify when it
obviously,
comes
if it
down
needs
to
a whole bunch of documentation, he may not be able to get it, but we'll work as hard as we can to get it before the deadline.
Right.
Okay.
Very good, thank you. Very good. Moving on, we're done with Public Works. Open space, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a few small items. We do have some parcels that we're continuing to consider for open space acquisition. We worked on removal of, we talked about removing a fence on Marion Avenue on a open space that was donated to the town recently, so we're going to look to remove that segment of fence to allow for passage in the wildlife corridor. We also talked about parcel maintenance, so we're gearing up for the final mowings here as we approach the fall for some of the fields, including the Highway Department is going to help us on School Street, parcel that was acquired a few years back there. The Grosky barn is, the goats have been relocated for about a month or so while the property is undergoing some maintenance to keep up on the property. So hopefully we'll see some more.
It was a hot topic on Facebook, I want you to know. A lot of
Okay.
people were asking, where are the goats?
Yeah. The goats will be back hopefully in September.
They went to a greener pasture.
Right. And then the last thing, maybe not on the open space parcel, but Chris, maybe just another opportunity. We did put the water on the farm next to DePaulo. Another Wednesday's coming up, so if we want to promote the vegetables sale Wednesday at the Pleasant View site,
Yeah.
right next to DePaulo, Wednesday at 4 to 6 p.m., supporting the students at DePaulo with their fundraising efforts. Fresh vegetables. What's coming up? Do we know what's being picked this week?
I don't right now.
Okay, sorry to put you on the spot. Okay, Chris will post it. Anything else, Jim or Chris?
Yeah, really pleased. Another piece of town property, the Leaf site, which we know Mark Ramsey runs on there, but it is town land. We are working with the state on a farmland restoration grant. Work has begun for that. So what that's going to do is replenish a large portion of the land up there that's not growable right now. It is on town land, so Mark Ramsey's kind of helping us out with that, but it's benefiting town land. And that is also a grant at the state level that's 90% reimbursable to the municipality. So it's
Wonderful.
22,000 spent, 20,000 reimbursable.
Excellent, excellent. Good stuff. Anything else on open space?
Madam Chair, if I may,
Yes.
you need to bifurcate. It was combined on one line, but you have Councilman Communications. You just did reports, we should go back to
Yeah.
Councilperson.
So I was just going to say that,
Okay,
Mark.
then.
I've got to
There you
thank
go.
you
Great minds.
for being very diligent. As you can see that inadvertently, Councilmatic Communications was left off the agenda. So may I have a motion for a 4A designation so we can do Councilmatic
Actually,
Communications?
it's on there. It's on there already. Just a matter, it's combined.
Oh,
So
I see.
Councilperson Communications and right goes to reports and special committee. Should be
Okay,
two lines,
very
it's only
good.
one.
Yeah, we'll just open it up. We won't have to put it on. So Councilmatic Communications, Chris?
Yes, I had the pleasure of attending the Italian Festival, so just a shout out, it's a great celebration in our community in the summertime. Unico, Sons of Italy, and Sorella d'Italia are the three sponsoring organizations, so thank you to them. I know several council people were there as well. Just a great community event as well on Center Street. While we're coming right off of Leaf, there's a new fundraiser coming up Thursday, August 24th from 5 to 8 p.m. This one is called Flower Power Fundraiser. Tickets are $35 right on the Leaf website. It's kind of unique, so if you're interested in something a little different, you're gonna, part of the event is you build your own flower bouquet from flowers grown right on the farm at Leaf. There's beer and wine provided with your $35, and there's light food, and it's catered by Smoking with Chris, Craft Kitchen, and the AquaTurf. And there's lawn games as well for kids, so should be a great event. Again, that is at Leaf, Thursday, August 24th, from 5 to 8 p.m. Last, I'm hoping maybe through the town manager. Unfortunately, I know we hear a lot from residents, how they feel their voice isn't heard in municipal government, and, it is unfortunate. We always do our best to tell people, we do value your opinion, we do want to hear from you. I unfortunately attended a town meeting this past week. It was the park board, because I was going specifically because of our steep grant, and that was on the agenda. It was a special meeting. There was no public communication listed on there. However, I asked as a member of the public if I was allowed to speak, and I was denied the opportunity to speak. So I really do not think it's best practice for any town board to not allow input from the public. I know the exception, I'm looking out, in the audience for budget workshops, whether it be for the Board of Finance or Board of Education. Very different, because there's not action being taken. There's no votes per se before you go back to the actual Board of Finance or Board of Education meeting. But for any town board where there is a vote being taken that impacts any operation in town, I really feel there needs to be public communication, whether it's a special meeting or not. With that being said, I know we've had training ourselves, elected officials, for FOI, through the FOI office, and just best practices for municipal operations. So again, through the town manager, I'd like to encourage all department heads to be aware of the value of public comment in any type of town meeting, and just town staff in general, and maybe even chairs of different boards and commissions, so that everyone's aware of the value of making sure the public.
Yeah, this board has control, as you know, over almost every, except for the other elected boards in town. This board appoints people to it, so you actually have control over them. So the directive would be, most of our boards, to the best of my knowledge, I know you're talking about one Parks Board, most of the boards have that in there, but the bottom line is, I think a directive from this board is not an issue. If you're giving me that directive, I will make sure it's on all their agendas, so it
Unless
sounds.
anyone objects, I just don't see any reason we wouldn't want to hear from the public on any town board.
The only issues you have sometimes, say, you have a public hearing of planning and zoning, there's certain issues with that, but they're an elected board, they handle their own agenda, you wouldn't have control over them. The Board of Education's their own agenda, the Board of Finance, they're all elected boards. The other boards, you appoint the members to, so you control those particular boards. If you have a directive, I'll be happy to give it to all the board chairs that you control.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Yeah.
Was it possibly because it was a special meeting, or would that matter? I don't know. Maybe a special
I
meeting?
did reach out to the corporate counsel, he's not here obviously tonight, but I did reach out to the corporate counsel, he said no, obviously, the chair could at any point add public communication. And, I don't think it was done intentionally, I think it was an oversight, but when any member of the public asks to speak at a public meeting, I really do feel it's critical to be able to get the voices from our residents. You just mentioned at the beginning of the meeting about a survey from the police department.
Right.
We want to hear from our residents.
Yes,
want
we do,
to
yeah,
encourage
yeah.
involvement, so.
So, Mark, would you send out a directive
No problem.
asking?
It is a rare occasion, though, because I go to a lot of
Yeah.
meetings, and I can't recall ever a chair saying, and I don't know the situation, I wasn't there,
Right.
but normally the chair will say, yeah, sure, if it's not on the agenda for that.
Just a reminder so that we have continuity across the board. It is very
Those will
important.
be for the boards that you people appoint members.
I appreciate that,
No
thank you.
problem.
May I also make a suggestion on that? Can we, Mark, if you're going to look into that, can we look at also our procedures? We created, a corporate counsel created a nice packet for all of the appointed boards. And I think each person who are on appointed boards is supposed to get a copy of that packet that has
When they
the
get sworn
regulations. Yeah, can we make sure that they get a copy of that? Because that was a very valuable tool that we created earlier this year. And also just make sure that that's in there, that it's recommended that the town council requires public
Turn to
input.
Kathy, I know when you swear them in, do they get that packet?
They do.
Okay.
It's emailed.
Yep.
Perfect. So we just got to check it and make sure that it's in there, that we're going to require that.
No problem.
Great.
Madam Chair, if I could be heard on that, I also attended that meeting. It was a Zoom meeting, and along with Chris.
Yes.
And one of the things that's important to note is the chairperson does have the right, by definition, to permit public communication. Interestingly, unless I'm mistaken, there were some members of the public that did communicate, and then at some point, the question was asked, is there a public communication aspect to the agenda? But if I'm not mistaken, without naming names, he did acknowledge a couple individuals that were not on the Parks and Rec Board.
I listened to that.
I was the
special
only
meeting.
one, I was the one that it was over Zoom.
Yeah.
I typed, when is public communication, I'd like to, and again, we were talking about economic strike, we were talking about the council, so
Yeah.
I'm on economic strike, I'm on the council, I just wanted to give some perspective
Sure.
from that lens, and I wasn't allowed to speak.
And I
so.
agree with you wholeheartedly. I am 100% behind you, but I'm reasonably certain, I'll have to relook, it was a 45-minute meeting, but I'm pretty sure that the president of the Western Baseball League was permitted to talk. So there was some version of open communication, but it was selective. But I could be mistaken on
That
that.
to me is even worse. I hope that's not the
My
case,
point,
but
that's my point, is it now have a uniform rule
I
in
don't,
place.
I don't remember.
I listened to that meeting.
Yeah.
There was
And you
no
may be
public.
right. I was of that opinion, but I wasn't paying attention to the specifics of who was speaking.
I think it was just shared that they've heard from the
You might be
president of
right.
the Little League, and no one else spoke. But again, that to me is even worse if it's selective in who can speak at a public
That's
meeting.
my point,
Yeah.
is that why there should be consistency throughout all appointed boards, and there will never be this issue again.
But
Thank-
again, I think if we do that,
I
we
think
have
we're
a
set.
solution moving forward.
Yep.
That's the best path.
Just as a reminder, sometimes things can get waylaid, so that's very good. Other council matter communication, yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So me, as well as councilperson DiPaolo, ended up attending the Taste of Southington. It was a great event. No rain this year because, again, it feels like every year it rains at the Taste of Southington. So great conversations with a lot of residents in town. So that was a great opportunity to be out there with the public as well as taste some good food of Southington. And then last Saturday, a bunch of us, I think Councilwoman DiPaolo, attended it as well. Backflips for backpacks that was done by Evelyn Mazzarella. I got a total count that they have over 100 backpacks and over 1,000 school supplies. So this little girl did a phenomenal job, spending a lot of time getting people to get there and get the press, coverage on it. So, and then I know there's some monetary dollars that was raised as well. So this is all to benefit Southern Community Services. So job well done to Evelyn Mazzarella, and I hope that she continues these efforts because this makes a huge difference in our community.
Very good. Anybody else? Anybody? Go ahead.
Madam Chair, I'll go if nobody else is.
No, I have a couple of things, but you go ahead,
Okay.
Val.
So one thing is the Read to Grow program, along with the Early Childhood Collective, has the bookmobile that will be spending the day in Southington this Friday. And there will be 3 stops for them, so it's out on their website. So I think it's just a great event. But they'll be stopping at the Margaret Griffin Center, Bread for Life's summer lunch program, and then later in the afternoon at the farmer's market. So it's just a nice opportunity for families so children can pick a book, go on the bookmobile, pick a book, and, just nice that they're going to be in Southington.
It's great, very good. Paul?
No,
Oh, I'm sorry. Val, I'm sorry.
So I wanted to, because we have something our caucus has some concerns about, so I just wanted to, if you'll indulge me for a minute, I just wanted to briefly talk about the importance of accountability in local government. So accountability is not only about the internal operations of our town. But it's also about maintaining a trust between local town leaders and our residents. Our residents need to trust that they are making decisions that we are making decisions that serve the best interest of our community. And I think there should be some really strict standards as far as ethical behavior. And we do have those standards in place. So, Paul, I was really happy that you mentioned the guidelines that were completed by our corporate counsel. So Alex put together this Town of Southington information and guidelines for boards, committees, and commissions. So it's an excellent packet. It talks about processes and how meetings should be handled, but it also talks about appointees and appointees that are appointed to boards, commissions, and committees. It talks about what they agree to do, and it talks about their behavior. And if I could just read, just briefly, members of all boards, commissions, and committees, upon their appointment, agree to the following responsibilities during their term of office. They shall, and I'll just read a few, demonstrate respect, fairness, consideration, and courtesy to others. They should serve as a model of leadership and inspire public confidence in town government. They should act and speak with honesty and integrity. And in section 2.3, the proper official conduct for members, members shall refrain from abusive conduct, personal charges, or verbal attacks upon the character or motives of other members of council, boards, committees, and commissions, the staff, or public. So our caucus, Madam Chair, we have some serious concerns about the comments that were made by one of the police commissioners, Michael Riccio. The comments were made, and I know you're aware of these comments. The comments were made in a Record Journal article. They were directed at two decorated Southington police officers who happen to be here tonight, a retired captain and veteran, Edward Pocock, and Sergeant Stephen Salerno. Mr. Riccio referred to them as rejects of the Republican Party. And also in private conversations, Mr. Riccio referred to them as trash. The concern is that these two police officers, one is retired and one is still active, and Mr. Riccio is a police commissioner. So, you know, the town council, as the authority making these appointments, we believe has the obligation on behalf of our residents to scrutinize the conduct of the people that we are appointing. We need to hold appointees accountable if they are not acting with integrity and honesty and respect. And whether we like it or not, all of us that sit up here, we're held to a higher standard. And we're held to that higher standard because we need the public to have confidence in us and have confidence in local government. So I think it's important that we have these guidelines. We believe that this council should not remain silent on those comments that were made because Mr. Riccio is a police commissioner. He's also on the Parking Authority, I believe, and he's on the strike committee, and he's a town leader. And as a town leader, I think we all have to hold ourselves to higher standards. And so we just felt as a caucus, I know those comments were made a couple weeks ago. We just really felt that we needed to be able to say that from the dais.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I would like just to share a couple more things. This week, I have had the opportunity, it's much lighter after that, I don't know. But I was able to participate with the Pocketbook Bingo for community services. There were over 200 people, I believe, there. Melissa and Mary kind of helped organize it and get it off the ground. They did do all of that, and it was great fun, and I wanted to just thank you. I'm not sure of the amount of money that community services. It's the 7th, that wonderful night, and everybody had a lot of fun. The other thing I wanted to mention that I had an opportunity with Deputy Chief Palmieri today, the Press and Television, which Channel 8, is doing a story on the VIF program between the partnership of that data collection that we received the presentation months ago. They're there, and the press was there, and they did quite a wonderful interview with Deputy Chief, did a terrific job. Member Patty Chavalazzi spoke on behalf of the Commission of Disabilities and one of the founders of the VIF program. This program is going to really help our town. As more people they're collecting tons of data. It's doing very, very well. I'm so proud it's in Southington. Southington has become the model for it, and it helps those without a voice when they need a voice. So that the police department, those of you who are not familiar with it, police department, ambulance, hospitals, and firefighters will have the opportunity to retrieve data on folks that have their caregivers or themselves have put in the system, so that when they cannot speak for themselves, at least the data will be there speaking for them. It was quite a wonderful day today just to hear everyone speak, and if we get home early enough, we might be able to catch it on Channel 8. So it was an honor to be there. And see this taking off in Southington. They gave a great deal of credit to our community for being on the cutting edge of this, and we're looking forward to it going further. It was quite good, don't you think, Deputy Chief? It was a very good day. Excellent. Thank you for your work on it. Thank you so much. Okay, anybody else? We're going to close it down. Thank you so much. We're going to move on. Town Manager's Report and Communication.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First thing is the Board of Finance minutes. The Board of Finance met on July 26th. I'd like to talk about 3 items that they covered. The first one is on page 2. As you know, that during the budget cycle, the chair of the Board of Finance mentioned that subsequent to the budget, he asked the Board of Education to come back for security items. Obviously, I'm not going to go into the security items because that was executive session matters, but the Board of Finance is recommending out of the unreserved fund balance, $732,873 to cover school security expenditures. That's the amount that was requested, plus 5% contingency. So that was an important aspect of the meeting, and I think that made the Board of Finance, as well as the Board of Education, pleased that their security needs will be met.
Yeah, I'm going to just stop you right there because I want everybody to understand. It's a general heading. We're not going to get into individual, actual, what the school security arm of this are, because for obvious reasons, for the security end of it all. So, but thank you. Mark, go on.
The second item, as you know, this was our closure meeting. This is where we closed the annual budget. So the fiscal year 23 budget has now been completed, and then we, obviously, starting July 1st, we started the fiscal year 24 budget. That being said, we appropriated $1,794,600 out of LoCIP capital funds. If you remember, with the Planceville project, it came in high. We had to go back to the state to get more money. They gave us the money, so this is appropriating into that budget. Also, the next one, also on page 5, is number 10. When you have encumbered items in the previous fiscal year 23, but they're not going to be paid for to fiscal year 24, you have what's called carry forwards. The Board of Education and the Town Council collectively is $1.7 million. It's approximately 50-50. Those things are goods and services that were encumbered in the prior year, which are going to be paid for in this fiscal year. So other than that, it was a good meeting, a lot of action taking place. We did close our fiscal year. And happy to answer any questions that you have.
Anyone? Yes, Chris?
Maybe a question, but more of an opportunity. The same meeting, page 8, they're talking about the MERS. We know we had a public hearing to add that money into the budget for both the Board of Education and the general government side. So we added that money in. The state did some recalculated comptroller. Now we ended up with, on the general government side, $605,000 and $240,000 for the Board of Education. Of that $605,000, I know $500,000 approximately is being used for the.
Well, we're not going to. It's not being used. It's staying where it is. And if we need it as the fiscal year goes on, it would offset that. To answer the question, it was actually a mathematical thing that the town, the state did. Instead of amortizing over 17 years, they decided to do over 25 years. So therefore, it made the cost less to the municipalities, and that's how we got more money.
So, the reason I bring this up is because, I think we share concern with public safety in our community. I know we've had multiple conversations about, and just to be frank, the conversations I've had with the manager, is it me, or is crime up, or is the police department just reporting a little bit more crime in our town, especially related to auto crime, whether it be theft or robbery or anything related to that. And I researched a little bit the cost of adding a police officer, and I do know that we're not really as aligned as we should be with a community our size with the amount of officers on the force. The reason I bring that up is maybe, Madam Chair, maybe at the next meeting, we could maybe add an agenda item to discuss possibly looking at adding a police officer. I mean, I know we heard about our security cameras with the license plate readers, but we're in a unique situation where we have, even the $500,000 aside, there's still approximately $100,000 potentially that's in the operational budget already accounted for. And we've heard that, yes, there's tools in the toolbox like the license plate readers and scanners, but maybe this is an opportunity for us to do something to help our police force as well. So, I'm just looking maybe to add it for our next meeting to.
Chris, my feeling is that we should not have a discussion about personnel of any department without going into executive session. That's the first thing, because it's a personnel matter. Secondly, as much as I would love to say we have an unlimited budget, put as many police officers as we need on or as we want on, but the authority on this is the commission and the police chief and deputy chief. And so I certainly am not opposed for a discussion, but it is a personnel matter. And before we want our desires, we need to get concrete discussions with the chief and with the police officers themselves and what have you. So I'm never opposed to talking about our public safety issues with police or fire or AMR, but I do have a great concern to bring it up on a public venue without the input of the chief, without the input of the deputy chief, without the input of officers themselves, and without the town manager looking at finances. So I do have a concern about that. I understand what you're saying, and I think it's very nice to consider it, but it is not budget season, and so I do have some concerns. I just wanted to answer that from where my perspective is, Chris. I'm not trying to be negative about anything, but I do want to have a certain structure to the discussion.
Right. So just a couple points. I'm not talking about any person because the position doesn't exist. So it's not a personal matter of an existing employee that I'm talking about, because there is no employee. I'm saying we've never had an opportunity where we're getting money returned to us in a municipal budget that's budgeted from the state of Connecticut. And the chief did request an additional officer this year. So the chief did want another officer this year. And again, I'm just building off of the presentation that we had at the last meeting, and we're hearing that it's not simply a matter of tools and resources, but it's more officers on the street. I'm not talking about in administrative positions or in the station, but just to support our officers on the street. Again, I'm just asking to explore it a little bit further, possibly for the next meeting, so we all have time to research it a little bit.
Well, I think you know my heart in the police department, so I have nothing against adding officers whenever that is, you know that. However, I think under the circumstances, we have to work within the structure. And so, just, for our discussion here right now, that's kind of where I am, but I'll open it up. Paul, you had wanted to say something?
I just, if I can just respond, Chris, I also support the PD. We have the detective sergeant here. I said, they're doing a great job. And I think we should explore all avenues for ensuring that we're maximizing our opportunities for public safety. I will say that, during the budget season, this was discussed. I know a lot of us expressed that interest. I know the town manager and I had this one-on-one as well. I think even John Leary sitting here, it was discussed extensively at the Board of Finance meeting. And I believe it was actually discussed that during the Board of Finance meeting that in the months ahead, there would be an evaluation between the town manager and the police chief.
I got
Yeah,
it.
go ahead.
If you wish me to comment on it, yeah. As you know, I requested Board of Finance and the Town Council approve an additional $100,000 for overtime. Part of that was with the understanding also, and the chief is well on board with this, is that we're going to review the matter. Doesn't matter when we review it, we're going to review the matter sometime in February and March. And our plan was, and actually it was one of Mr. Larry's and my suggestions, is that we deal with it in February and March, possibly add a police officer that time. So what it does, what happens is you take that money, if it's not being used, you use that money from allocation for overtime, add a police officer, March, April, May, June, and then into the year, you have the police officer all set to go. So I know that the chief has had that conversation with me. Actually, I brought it up here during the budget cycle.
That's right.
That was brought up, and Mr. Leary brought that up during his presentation, I believe, too.
So a couple things. There was an extensive discussions from the board because it was cut at the manager level, correct?
This,
The officer
yeah,
request was
what happens is, yes, it did not go through the Board of Finance or to the Town
Okay.
Council.
Didn't go to the Board of
If I
Finance.
could just finish. So that's one point, that it wasn't an extensive
No.
discussion among boards because it didn't even get to the boards.
No, it was
because
discussed at the Board of Finance, is what I was saying.
Right, but my point is the manager cuts, and by the charter, if the manager cuts items, it doesn't.
He didn't cut, I don't think that made it into his budget, is
If I-
what
if
what
I
he's
could
saying.
Finish, and then certainly you could respond if you want, but, so, I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, but I'm saying, if we're gonna do a review, and we have a rare opportunity where we have funds in our operational budget that is already included, and we've still accounted for potentially the balance with the $500,000 miscalculation with, whatever. It could be an opportunity to support the department even more. And I don't think any of us are opposed to that. That's why I'm asking for the next meeting, if we can put that on, bring the chief here, that's fine. And maybe start those conversations.
Sooner than March.
Sooner rather than later.
That's a point.
Because we have money in the budget right now.
Well, I doubt very much the police commissioner, the chief's going to say, no, I don't want an officer.
Right.
I just would like, Madam Chair, I just want to clarify your statement. There was no cut by the town manager in the town manager's budget of a police officer. What I'm suggesting was it wasn't in the budget to begin with. No, I'm saying it was not in the budget. There's a town manager's budget that he has an opportunity to cut. It was not in that budget to be cut, is what I'm saying.
If you look at the budget, there's two different things. There's a budget that's submitted by every department.
Right.
Then there's a wish list that's attached to that.
Right.
That was in the one where, it wasn't in the base budget, but it's in, I'm
Wasn't in
looking
the
at the
budget.
deputy chief because he wrote the budget.
Right.
But that was one where we call that
Couldn't-
add-ons
nothing
or
could be
wish
done
list.
with
It
it.
was not part of that. But it was definitely,
I get it.
I could actually have put it in if the
Right.
budget was there,
My
but yeah.
point is, it was a request from the police department.
As
So
there-
we
yeah.
do know that the chief
They want it.
did want it.
Well, I can guarantee none of my department heads would say to you, no, I don't want additional
Right.
personnel, so.
Fair.
But again, if we're saying there's an opportunity to explore and we have funds, this doesn't happen every year. In fact, I don't ever remember a year I've served in the council where we've had excess in the operational budget that we could potentially use really at a time of need in our community. So that's why I'm asking if the next agenda, we put it on the agenda, we can go from there.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
If I may, I think this is a bit of micromanaging. We have great leadership in this town with the town manager, the superintendent of schools, the chief of police, and I think we have great relationships. I mean, Councilman Palmera, you're in an administrative role with the Board of Education, so why not take a look at the Board of Ed cuts as well? I mean, if there's extra money, if we want to go down that micromanaging path, we can certainly do that. I don't think it's appropriate. I think we have good relationships with town leadership, and I think if there's a need, we should hear it from them first, and we don't need to pick and choose what we restore, I'll call it, with parentheses, but.
So Tom, as you know, the town council has line item control over operations in the town side of the budget, and we do not have that authority over the Board of Education per state.
Right.
So to compare those two, it's not even a fair comparison, because I think you know, after all these years, that you don't have that authority. We do have the authority within the municipal budget. And again, we've already said we're going to do it. We have excess money in the budget.
Okay, I think,
Madam Chair?
everybody's made their
Well,
point.
no,
and I
Madam
think-
Chair, I'd like to say something real
Okay,
quick.
wait 1 second, please, Jack. So Jack, you make the final statement on this thing, and then we will move on, because we'll move on.
Okay, so quickly, just 3 quick things. It's time of need. It's not micromanaging. The chief, deputy chief, whoever it was that created the budget, it was in there, or a request for it. And again, time to hire takes time. We're just not going to have an officer walk in tomorrow. So I think we need action or a further discussion, so having it at our next council meeting, I think, would be appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. Mark?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome.
The second item is the deputy town manager. This is something that's been dear to my heart for several years now. As you know, this was a position that we had in the town from 2006 to 2017. I'm asking the council to reestablish the position, not as a standalone position, but almost identical to the position we had during that period of time, 2006 to 2017. I believe that the relationship between the deputy town manager, at that time we called it town attorney, but this time would be corporate counsel with Attorney Ricardone, had a great relationship. I know I had a great relationship with both the managers I worked for, and there's a symmetry there that's necessary for someone who's in the number 2 position. I've known Alex now and worked him closely for an entire year. I have faith in him. I would want to talk about what I assigned to him, because although it's an ordinance, it simply says duties for whatever the manager gives the duties for. But let me go through what I think that the position had before. The only thing it does not going to have, which I had when I had that position, was direct reporting to the town council. There won't be that, because we have now a town attorney separate from the corporate counsel. So during that period of time, the position worked very closely with HR, which I've already had the corporate counsel doing that for about 3 months now, and have been monitoring that with HR. Their administrative responsibilities to all the land use boards and all the land use departments. When I had the job as corporate counsel, as deputy town manager and town attorney, I worked very closely, and I see several members I worked very closely with on the land use boards. I went to all the meetings, went to the meetings that the chairs had with the department heads, and it is a great situation there. And what you're doing is you're able to head off a lot of issues. And I could tell you, and the planning and zoning chair I worked very closely with, I think we head off probably a good 20 or 30 lawsuits that were coming down the pike that never happened because we did that. So I do think it's a very important position. I do think I do have the right person I'm recommending. It's your choice, of course, but I do think that Attorney Ricardone would be perfect for this position. Obviously, it would continue on with the current line item budget. There wouldn't be any change in the budget. I would look at the budget next year with the finance staff, and we'd see if there was any need to do a modification at that point. But I'm recommending to you tonight for the position, and I'll call it corporate counsel / deputy town manager for Attorney Ricardone. Any questions?
Any questions? Thank you, Mark. Anything else?
That's all I have. We do not have executive session tonight.
Thank you so much. Moving along, town attorney's report.
Madam Chair, I'm happy to report I have no report to provide this evening.
Very good. Well, thank you. Now is public communication. We invite the members of the public to come forward. You'll have 5 minutes. We ask for your respect as you deliver any message you have, and we will afford you the same honor. So, anybody coming forward?
Quiet night. Good evening, Mary Baker, 50 Burlington Drive. I am here to respectfully disagree with your collective opinion on the bridge project. So I work at the department, and I oversee the bridge inspection unit, so I am not part of that project team. But I will say projects originate with our group. We find them to be poor, and in this case, this happened years ago. The design team decided to pursue this at-grade plan of the intersections and not replace the bridge. So I will also offer that the other bridges subsequently, this project has been taking many years. There's other bridges that we've deemed poor. So they've added those to the project so that we don't, as a town, have to incur all that disruption repeatedly. But I've read the minutes of the Public Works Committee, and I've also read the letter that the department sent the town, and I've read the minutes that you were sent in February with the traffic analysis attached. So I would appeal to you that you should go back and read those minutes from your February meeting, because in my personal opinion, again, not as part of this project team, the level of service chart, so it's all about the turns and the queues, right? So there's 6 items shown, there's an AM and PM peak, and one of the 6 columns from present day to future is reduced. However, it is still at a level of service C, and that is to mean good. So I think overall that project is not going to decrease or add to the congestion. So that being said, along with the proximity of the intersections, I don't feel personally that is a worry, because they are now in such great technology with integrating the 2 systems, and they have video detections, and I don't think that is going to be a concern. I personally know what it's like, as many residents do, trying to travel Route 10 south to take a left and go west on Marion Waterbury Road. That's a terrible movement, because you're into the backup that's at the light by Sam the Clams and the pizza place and the car wash and all. So I would ask that you reconsider, and to look at holistically this project, because when you look at the project as a whole from all the environmental work that's been done, if you watch the video from the last year's public info, I did look at that, and maybe you attended, maybe you didn't, but I would ask that you watch that video, and you can see how the engineers explain that all of the time that's been taken to look at the environmental aspects and what the replacement of the bridge would cause, or rather what it's not, because they're really speaking to the intersection project. But if you're looking to replace the bridge, you're going to be looking at current design standards. You're going to have to increase the height, which is going to then likely produce greater impacts to properties. So all of the property acquisition has been done on this project, so now you're going to look at more rights to acquire. I think it's not going to be a great site, and I personally, in my role at the department, want less bridges to maintain. Right now, we inspect bridges every 2 years typically, and so we're coming to town for this bridge that's carrying 10 over 322 once a year, to make sure that nothing's falling on the traffic overhead. So we're checking that carefully, and so rest assured we're keeping it safe. But I will say, as a whole, when bridges are poor this long, typically they're not functioning well, and you're going to be faced with some consequence, meaning you're going to look to restrict weight across the bridge. And my opinion is, I hope that I can convince you to relook at this and consider the present project as proposed. So thanks for your consideration.
Thank you.
Hello, Regina Covello, 12 Beecher Street. And I am, as Jack already took the thunder away from me, but I just wanted to say how proud I am of Evelyn. Her back flips for backpacks, wonderful, and she did them. Okay, I was there for a period of time, and my 4-year-old granddaughter was down there, and they were both on that mat, and they were flipping, and you name it. And Evelyn did this on her own. It was her idea to help out other kids. And I just, Evelyn, I'm so proud of her. I am so proud of a little girl that took that initiative. And that's what I wanted to say on a good note. Great job, Evelyn. I love you, girl.
Very good. Thank you, Regina. Is there anyone else? Going once, going twice. Okay, we're done. Old business, action on the opioid funds, presentation. I don't know why I have a problem with that. Action on it?
Do we need to
Motion to approve.
approve the funding?
I would say, motion to approve the presentation, because they talked about what they plan on doing with the money.
Motion to
Second.
approve the presentation.
Second.
Very good. Any discussion on this? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
O'Meara,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Chaplinsky,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
DiPaolo,
Yes?
Diedzik,
Yes.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Morelli,
Yes.
Triano.
Yes, thank you. Item B, action on the STEEP grant.
Motion to authorize the town manager to serve as the agent on behalf of the town for the STEEP grant, as discussed at the economic strike meeting.
Right, and we'll file it if time allows. Okay, I want to, because
All in
I
agreement.
want agreement on that, yeah.
Thank you.
Second, Madam
Is there a
Chair.
second? Okay, there's a second. All those,
For discussion?
yes, go ahead, I'm sorry, yep.
Just for clarity, for anybody who may be watching, it is not going to include the originally proposed Spring Street and West Street.
That's correct. Okay, any other discussion? Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Palmieri?
Yes.
Perry?
Yes.
Chaplinsky?
Yes.
Del Santo?
Yes.
DiPaolo?
Yes?
Dietzick?
Yes.
Lombardi?
Yes.
Morelli?
Yes, get to work.
Triano? Triano?
Yes. Item C, action on the report of the Board of Finance. Paul?
Motion to approve the minutes of the Board of Finance.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I
Any
have,
discussion?
yeah, I just wanted to reiterate, because it wasn't, we didn't go into great depth on this, but, there's a lot of political discussions and, a lot of political rhetoric that occurs during the budget season. It's difficult sometimes to work through a lot of the discussion that occurs on the Board of Finance. There's a lot of moving parts. There's many different steps. And I wanted to thank the Board of Finance for their diligence. Chairman Leary's here, but also the Chair of the Board of Education is here. And I want to just say thank you for working together on this. I think it was discussed during the budget workshop, but oftentimes dismissed by maybe people who did not support the budget. But I want to just point out, there's $732,000 in the action from the Board of Finance. We're talking two weeks, less than 1 month into the new budget. And as promised during the budget workshop by the Board of Education and the Board of Finance, they delivered on $732,000, which is more than was actually requested during the budget season for safety in our schools. And, that's no small order. And I wanted to say thank you. I want to say thank you for your diligence, for your fiscal conservative policies, and thank you for all of the parents who have children in the schools for putting a very good step forward and putting significant money that's going to help bring school safety to a much higher level in Southington. So thank you for working together on that.
Very good. Yes, go ahead, Tom.
Just to piggyback off of that as well, I think that it really establishes a relationship for the future, where we don't need to look at safety issues at one point in time. I think the superintendent can see here that if there's a safety issue that comes up next week, the boards are willing to roll up their sleeves and work on it on an as-needed basis. So I think it's a different approach than we've done in the past, and I think it's a good one for the future. So thank you to the Board of Ed and Board of Finance.
I think it's pertinent to the same discussion that we just had. We're willing to make investments where investments are needed if we all work together, work with department heads like Board of Finance, Board of Education, the Police Department. We're willing to do that, so looking forward to doing more of it.
Very good. Any other discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Palmieri?
Yes.
Perry?
Yes.
Chaplinsky?
Yes.
Del Santo?
Yes.
DiPaolo?
Yes?
Dietzick?
Yes.
Lombardi?
Yes.
Morelli?
Yes.
Triano?
Yes. Item D, action on the Deputy Town Manager.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'd like to make it a motion to appoint the position of Deputy Town Manager to our Corporate Counsel Attorney, Alex Riccardone.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We're open for discussion. Yes, Chris?
I really think this is added to the agenda, not originally, but we added it to the agenda. I appreciate the call,
yeah.
so we did talk about that. This is a major position for our town. It was added to the agenda, and now we're voting on it quickly tonight, not even having time to have a discussion like we are now before making a motion for action on something. This, to me, is reminiscent of a couple of years ago, and again, it has nothing to do with the people sitting here, it's just the process that was followed, or a lack of a process, and to move forward, and I think Alex does a fantastic job, so it has nothing to do with Alex, because I know that's the name brought forward. It's more a lack of a process for this moving forward. There was no application. I just can't see moving forward with appointing someone without any due diligence to all our department heads. And I'm struggling with this. And we've heard before the Good Old Boys Network, and I mean, to just put something on the agenda tonight and then act on it, to me, is problematic. So I can't support this because of the lack of process.
Anybody else? Val?
Sure, Madam Chair. It goes back to what I had said before as far as what the confidence that the public has in us as elected officials and town leaders, and accountability and transparency. As Chris said, this is very important. This is a really important position. I guess it's a personnel matter, right, that you had just mentioned. Personnel matters should maybe be discussed in executive session. I'm struggling with it too, because I get along well with Alex. He does a really good job, but it's not about the person. It's about how our residents will look at this and say, well, he's already there, he's corporate counsel, and we haven't had a discussion to determine whether all the job responsibilities he has as corporate counsel, can he do all those? Can he then take on some of the responsibilities that the manager was bringing up as, a deputy town manager? So it's not that at some point I wouldn't say, yes, he's the right person. But I think it is, I don't think it shows fairness, and I think it shows that we are just trying to do this very quickly.
Thank you. Jack?
Madam Chair, thank you. So, again, I kind of struggle with this as well, and I spoke when the process went through with Mark Shota. I stood right at that podium as a resident, had nothing against Mark, but a process is a process. I own a business, and I interview people. I don't just hand out a job. There's a process that we do. Again, there's no public input. Again, where's the community going to have for public input? It's going to be in the paper that the Good Old Boys team got an appointment. I like Attorney Riccadone. I've been quoted praising him being our corporate counsel. But again, we're supposed to be operating what's best for Southington. And rushing this evening and putting it on the agenda is not what's best for Southington. And again, there's even a council person that's related to Riccadone that's on this dais right now and is sitting here while we're having this debate, which I would have recused myself. So again, I think that this needs to be tabled, and we need public input, and let the public decide and talk about this, because again, it's close to election season, and again, I just don't think this is something that we should be steamrolling through, and we should be doing our due diligence and make sure that we have the best candidate for this position. What's the background of Riccadone with municipal government, as far as the administration side? Again, we currently have an interim town manager, Matt Turnquist, when Mark isn't around. We all see that. We all send the emails. So this is not something that we're in dire need. Where's the funding coming from? There's just so many questions, Madam Chair, that tonight is just not the night to act on this. So I would like for somebody to remove that motion. I would love to make a motion to table this.
Make the motion to table.
You can make the motion.
Yeah, I'll make the motion. I'll make the motion to table.
Very good, okay. So we have a motion on the floor. I know, Bill, you had your hand up, but we're going to deal with the motion to table first. There's a motion to table this. I would offer that when I spoke to Chris about it. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So there's a motion to table and a second. So, Madam Clerk.
Chris Palmieri seconded.
Yeah, Chris seconded it. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Palmieri.
Yes.
Perry.
Yes to table.
Chaplinsky.
No.
Del Santo.
No.
DiPaolo.
Yes to table.
Dietzick.
No to table.
Lombardi.
No to table.
Morelli.
No to table.
Triano.
No. I want to just say this, and then Bill, you had your hand up. I did want to just put in the record that when I spoke to Chris, I was very clear about it, because I said I want this to be done prior to the craziness that elections, that running for office can hold. And I wanted this to be clean and clear. Alex is the one, Chris, I don't find this funny. I listened very carefully to you. And I also was very candid with you. And your side has brought up so many things that it's because we've kicked into election season. I am just saying that I want to be very clear with everyone that that was done. I told you exactly the reason why we were doing it. And there is no other person that's in the running for this. It has been discussed with town employees, and there's no one else in the running for it. Alex has done a tremendous job. He has, and the town manager has endorsed him. And so that's all I wanted to say. Bill, would you go ahead, Bill, please?
Yeah, I just want to just make sure it called the public's attention. So this is, and I can, if I'm incorrect, someone correct me, this is a charter appointment by the council, correct?
Ordinance.
So we have, it's a different appointment, right? You have your town manager, you have your town attorney, which are appointed under the charter by the council. Then you have the deputy town manager. So this isn't like you're going to see in a couple minutes, we're going to vote for ethics, for Board of Ethics. It's a Democrat appointment. I don't know who the person is. If they're a good person, I'll probably vote for them. So there's the process that's delivered. But the deputy town manager, because we haven't seen it in a while, is a separate special vote. So it's semi-political because it's similar to the town manager, similar to the town attorney. So really, when you have a referendum, you have your election on the people sitting here, it is our ability to vote for this position. So to say there's no process, I think you're missing it. The process is actually really pure. It's just purely political. You vote for the council, and we put on the town manager, the town attorney, and the deputy town manager. It just hasn't been done before. So I disagree when you say there's no process. Now, I would agree with you guys. If we're appointing somebody, I don't know, insert any other position, yeah, there should be a hiring process. Jack, you own a business, right? Why would somebody ever, you would absolutely have a hiring process. So I'd agree there. But I just wanted the public to understand this is a very unique position. So I would put it in a different bucket than all the other positions, and there is a process.
So can I just follow up on Bill?
Hang on just a second, please. I'm going to hear on our side now, please. Go ahead.
So I would, I understand the concern that was brought up a little bit earlier. This is a position that is basically the number two or the right-hand person for the town manager. I would say who better to know best for this role than the town manager. I would assume his recommendation would carry a lot of weight in the appointment that we would have. And I guess we would ask the town manager to address some of the questions that you've asked. So you did ask questions about where's the funding come from. I heard that from a council person. I heard a question, about, well, we heard about what the duties are. Your recommendation to us, I'm assuming it still stands. And can you talk about personnel? We've heard about other people in the department. Have you
Well, it's
talked?
a combined position. It's a combined position. It's not a standalone position. So I'm looking at what we used to have, which is a corporate counsel / town attorney and deputy town manager. That fits this position perfectly. When I hired the corporate counsel, that's not a council position. I hired the corporate counsel. When I appointed and I notified you guys, assistant to the manager when he was doing the HR stuff. This is not my appointment. That's why I'm coming to you for the next level, which is the deputy town manager. I'm recommending Alex, but it's a council decision, not my decision. So to answer your question, I'm recommending him. It wouldn't be on the agenda when the chair called me when I was on vacation. I said that if she wished to put it on the agenda, Alex would be my recommendation. I had spoken with the other two people that I had in mind, and Alex is the best choice for this one because I see this position as a bifurcated position, which is the legal part and the administrative part. You're always going to have a financial part. You have a director of finance and you have a director of public works. Those people are standalone positions. And to answer Jack's question, those are I rely on those positions a lot. And I also rely on my corporate counsel, which in this case would be the deputy town manager position.
So you have talked to other senior leaders in your department.
Yes, you have.
The finance is part of this. Is there any impact to your budget on it?
No, there's not going to be any change in my budget. But I did say that in next year's budget, I will take a look at it. No guarantees one way or the other. Alex knows there's no guarantees one way or the other. But certainly I'm a fair person, and as more duties go on, I look for that with any department head. Doesn't make a difference.
So you see, this is not a standalone job. So this is a job that's going to be combined with an existing
came-
role. But I just want to ask the question one last time. You see you see the legal aspect of this playing a significant role as well in this dual role. And that's part of the reason why you're recommending the corporate counsel?
I recommended years ago, when we talked about this, many years ago, I didn't think the town needed a standalone deputy town manager.
Fair.
So when I spoke with the council then, and I spoke with the then manager, I said, my suggestion was at the time, talking to Mr. Weissel, that we could talk about a dual position.
Okay.
Because I didn't think that the deputy town manager is a standalone position. A lot of towns have that. I didn't think Southington needed that, as long as we had a full-time attorney involved, too. I needed to take those steps, because remember, since 2017, we've not had a full-time, quote-unquote, attorney. We've had the old system, so therefore it didn't work. So I waited, of course, till the council chose to move forward in the budget with the corporate counsel and then with this position. So that, my position is, yes, it is a position that the town needs, and I'm recommending this individual for that position.
Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me?
I think that's clarity.
Yes.
I think Paul said, I don't remember who, that there was a process. Can someone tell me what the process was?
What's the process?
What was the process that was done? To lead us to the right? Was there an internal posting? Was there interviews? What was the process to come up with the recommendation for Alex?
Well,
Because I heard there was a process.
Well, I could tell you what you call it a process, call it whatever you want. This could not be a bifurcated position for the Public Works Director. This could not be a bifurcated position for the Finance Director. In my opinion, those two positions cannot possibly take on the next role. Those of you on the Public Works Committee know my Public Works Director has got her hands full in the Finance Director. So that's why this particular position, I felt, could do both. Could handle the land use boards as the administrators represented for land use boards, because I know it could handle it, because I did all that. I did that from 2006 to 2017. Everything I told you about today, I did that. And I feel confident that, maybe not at this exact moment, but certainly he's going to be good or better than I was during those positions.
So can I ask just a couple things? Then it's clear that it's a political appointment.
If the council appoints, it's a political
It's a
appointment.
political appointment. And what is the rush? What is the rush to do this now? Is it because an election's coming up?
It's our purview, right? It's the purview of the chair.
Right.
Put it on for tonight.
But why? Why now? When we're saying that,
Because he's
the town
already-
manager just said that there could be, you would look at this down the road, there could be additional funds to him, because he's going to take on more responsibilities. And there's no guarantee that he's going to be compensated fairly for those responsibilities right now. And you're going to look at it 6 or 8 months down the road and say, oh, wow, Alex, you've been doing quite a bit of work. We need to compensate you now, so we'll put that in, maybe in the next budget, we'll have to look at an increase.
That's very probable.
So why now? What's the rush?
I believe, I don't mean to step on Mark's toes. I believe that Alex is already doing this job. He's already functioning in all of this area. He just doesn't have the title. And I believe that going forward, in the next few months, he will be able to take a lot of work off the shoulders of the town manager. Not a lot of town managers will still be busy, but he'll be able to function fully as assistant town manager. There's no reason to stop it. It's not going to cost us anything. He has worked well with both sides. He's independent, and I believe that it's the time now to do it, not to put it off and have it become some political football. He deserves better than that. Alex deserves better than that. He has shown his dedication to the community. He has shown his dedication to this council and to the people of this community. His record is blameless, and he has been without blemish in his service to this town.
And I agree with that, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair,
With all due respect, I'm sorry,
with your
Paul.
explanation, I'm going to make a
All due
motion to
respect.
move the motion. I'm going to make a
No,
motion to
Paul,
move the
we're not
motion.
done with
We've
discussion.
already had,
We're not
everybody's.
done with discussion.
Well, they won, we lost. That's
Well,
why. You
listen,
guys can do
we're-
whatever you want.
Here's the thing, we are not questioning Alex's character or
Well, then
anything
why
at
not
all.
now?
Because it
Then
doesn't
why
make
not?
sense now, it's a political football right now.
No, it's going to be more so.
Well, no.
Okay, all right, wait a minute, let's just calm down. I got a sentence, speaking for myself. So, Michael.
So we are at the purview of you, Madam Chair. You've asked to put this on for tonight. You've expressed your displeasure. It's on the record, okay? So that's it. Let's move the motion. You've
Yes.
said everything you've had to say.
Right.
Just want to make
That's
sure
fine. You
everybody.
disagree with it. It's on the record.
Absolutely.
The people in the room know. As of tomorrow, everybody will know. So let's move the motion. Why, are we going to talk about this for the next 2 hours?
I would love to, because this is a very
No, You've
important,
expressed your displeasure already. How many
that's
times are you
democracy,
going
is
to
we go
say
back
you
and
don't
forth,
want to do
and we
this?
talk.
And usually
just-
this stuff doesn't start until September.
It's gonna
so
cost
it's
us money, you're
starting
saying it's
early.
not gonna cost us money. Mark's gonna take it paid to reduce.
I'll make the motion to
I made the
move.
motion.
and I'll second
Oh,
it.
you need to second.
There's a motion and a second.
There's a motion and a second on the floor. I will, I don't believe there should
No
be any
discussion.
further
There's
discussion.
no discussion on a motion to move. No.
We're moving
That'll-
the motion.
We can ask the town attorney. I don't believe there is a discussion on the motion.
Okay. So there's a motion and a move on the motion. So Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Is
Paul
this
Mayor-
for the motion or the motion to move the motion?
It's to move.
It's to move the motion.
So this is the actual vote on the person?
No.
No.
No, it's to move the motion.
All right.
I was having that same problem, Mark, a minute ago. So this is to
To
move the
eliminate
motion.
discussion.
There's a motion and to move the motion.
Yes.
So, okay, I know. Call the does everybody understand what we're doing? This is a motion, we're voting on a motion to move the motion to vote for deputy town manager.
To end debate.
Madam Clerk.
Paul Mary,
No.
Perry,
No.
Chaplinsky,
Yes.
Del Santo, DiPaolo,
No.
Dietzick,
Yes.
Lombardi,
No.
Morelli,
Yes.
Triano.
Yes.
It doesn't pass.
Doesn't pass, it needs a two-thirds. So the discussion continues.
So we've discussed.
Tell us
Okay.
again how come.
So the discussion is open. Tom, do you want to open up some discussion?
Sure, I'll open it up.
I think you should.
Sure. I'm going to look at it from a positive side here, and what I'm taking away from this is all of us who have spoken have praised the actual job that has been done, and that's important. Councilwoman DiPaolo has talked about accountability for elected officials, confidence of the voters, and I can look any voter in the eye and say, this appointment is a solid appointment because of his experience, not only within the town, but with his military experience, his professional experience. We're not going to find a better candidate. And I think we all know this. There's a lack of applicants in the municipal sector. We have a prime candidate ready to go. He doesn't need to fill out an application. He's been working. What better application do we have than actual on-the-job experience? So I'm going to take the recommendation from the town manager, the comments from both sides of the aisle on the actual job being done, and accountability and confidence. This is the candidate, and I'll be voting yes for this candidate this evening.
Are you making that motion?
No, there's already a motion. So this is
Discussion.
discussion.
That's right. Anybody else, final discussion? Yes.
Just one other thing, because you and I had a unique perspective. We were on the whole hiring position,
Yes.
hiring panel that went on for
Yeah,
2 years.
that's
I wanna
right.
say, for this. We specifically changed it from a shared position, which is what it originally was, into simply the corporate counsel because of the municipal experience versus the legal experience. You remember that? And I think that was even the last.
And he's had a
council
year
meeting
now
there.
with the municipal.
But the point is, we intentionally did that, and that was a process that we went through. We intentionally separated those two positions out, moved forward with the corporate counsel, and absolutely, Alex was the choice, unanimous choice. I agree with you. I agree with you that, again, it's not about Alex. That was the first thing I said. It's not about the person. It's about the lack of a process for, Mark's the CEO of the town. This is the deputy CEO of our town, and we're just, in one night, just appointing someone. That's the concern. It's not about him, and I've said that, Tom, repeatedly. So, and I also think that for such a huge decision, it is close to election. Let the next council decide who the manager is, and it could be you guys. I don't know.
Why don't
but
we
let
do
the-
that? We're here now.
We're here now.
Because I don't think we're doing due diligence. He hasn't even been in the position long enough
And your displeasure is on the record. I don't know why we keep doing this dance. All three of you have let us know that you don't want this to occur. It's heard. I heard it. I hope all of us have heard it. Let's move on. And then if things change come November, then you can take it all away. Let's roll the dice and see what happens.
Well, it's not also fair to just give somebody a position and then just take it
So let's
away.
go one at a time. Did you want to speak, Jack?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Sure.
So again, what I heard is our town manager, Mark Schoda, state that there was other candidates. So again, those names weren't presented to us. And I think, again, if there were other candidates, we should have 3 names. Why
They're not
not?
qualified, he told you.
Well, again, it's,
They weren't interested, is the bottom line.
so we didn't have 3 other candidates.
Well, I
'Cause
said
if they're not
I
interested.
spoke with 3, 2 were not interested.
Okay, so was this ever posted out there? Because again, there's hundreds of thousands of people in our state that I think would have loved to maybe apply for this position.
It's not a standalone position.
But hang on, I have the floor.
It's not a
Thank you.
hiring.
Paul, I have the floor. Thank you. We earlier mentioned that, this is a personnel issue, so I don't know why we're not mentioning or talking about this in executive session. I feel that Alex is kind of being tossed around, and he's kind of in a bad position here, but again, it's the process, not the individual. I like Alex. There's nothing that I could say ill about him, but again, where's the public's input on this? The public doesn't know the name, so now we present the name. Let's open it up. We heard earlier tonight about the Parks Board not having public input, and you all agreed that there should be public input. So why shouldn't there be public input on one of the most important jobs in our town? You guys are silencing the Southington residents, and I just think it's just bad. What's the individual's background? I haven't heard that he has administrative experience in the past. Obviously, this is Mark's pick, but again, I guess it's our decision, not really Mark's. So again, I respect his input on it, but again, I don't agree with it. And I think, again, the headlines in the paper will be the good old boys are at it again, because that's what I'm seeing here. And that is it. Thank you.
Well, the good old. Voted by you. All right, any other statements? I think we've gone around this thing enough. And Mark, thank you.
There's a motion and a second on the floor.
Yes, so we're going to take our vote. But before we do that, I want to thank you, Mark, for all of your diligence in training Alex and him being with you for over a year and taking on more and more responsibility. It makes the choice very simple for me. So, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Palmieri,
No.
Perry,
No.
Chaplinsky,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Very much so, yes.
DiPaolo,
No.
Dietzick,
Abstain.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Morelli,
Yes.
Triano.
Definitely yes. Congratulations, Alex. And so you will inform him formally?
I'm
tomorrow?
sure he already knows. He's
I'm
watching
sure
right
he
now.
must know, I know. I'm sure he's listening to every bit of this. The only other thing I wanted to, we're going to go on to finish off the meeting, but I did want to say, on the part of the council, we all went through an FOI, somebody mentioned it, training session, and one of the important things that was mentioned at that FOI training session, that the use of texting during town council meetings is a violation of the FOI standard. So throughout this whole meeting, there's been things going back and forth from this dais. So I just want to say that it's been noted, and going forward, we will continue with the standard of FOI. So, all right, so let's move on now. New business, tax refunds.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the tax refunds that are presented in our packet.
I'll second.
Very good. Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
Palmieri,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Chaplinsky,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
DiPaolo,
Yes.
Dietzick,
Yes.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Morelli,
Yes.
Triano.
Yes. The appointments are to the Board of Ethics for 2 members from the Democratic
Madam
side.
Chair, both Tony D'Angelo and Pat Johnson have expressed interest in continuing, so we would like to reappoint.
Very good. We will take those appointments and
Second? Those are the motions. You need a second?
Yep. Is there a second?
I'll second, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Thank you so much.
Motion to adjourn.
A second, please.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Thank you so much, everybody.